Hello again, everybody. It is Wes with Pikes Peak Trades, and happy Easter weekend to you after this holiday shortened week of trading, in which I think the bulls re-exerted some control over the markets. I'm excited to give you some updates. So let's jump right in, looking here at monthly charts. So we had monthly charts that did close for us on Wednesday, and we're looking here at the SPX monthly. And we see a monthly picture that is very healthy. So we see all MAs pointed up at that 45-degree bull angle that you want. There is no divergence yet. Looking across all of the technicals on the RSI, the MACD, and the Stochh, and things are looking good. I think for continuation, I've had this count in play all the way since back in October. I haven't changed it. Haven't flopped it around any. I think that we're looking anywhere between 43 to 4,600. So possibly a tag of this longer term rail. That would be right at about 4,400 maybe to finish the month of June, and then perhaps a pullback through the summer, and then maybe this initially I'm thinking this is going to be a longer term pullback. Wave fours tend to be frustrating, especially if there was a wave two that was a sharp zigzag, which is what I'm charting here. It's also possible the time frame could really speed up, and we could see this top happen sooner. We could see this intermediate four happen sooner, and we could see this primary wave being made at the end of 2021, as opposed to what I'm anticipating, at least right now, to the middle of 2022. So all of the timing there really is just a little bit of speculation. I feel pretty good though about the price targets, and certainly would feel that whenever this rail is hit, if it is hit, that's probably going to be a place that we could turn back, maybe at that intermediate degree. Now, I before we get to other charts, I do want to jump into two things about momentum here and about breadth. So we're looking here at NYMO, and I had tweeted out early in the week, I want to see that get above plus 20, and it did at the close with the strong move on Thursday. We need to see some continued strength by getting QQQ and IWM a little bit more involved, and that's what's going to show up over here on the NYAD. Now, we were really only probably about maybe 50 advancing issues away from a new all-time cumulative high on the NYAD. If we see IWM and QQQ continue to participate, this is going to lead to a new all-time high, and that could be done without the actual ETFs making the new all-time high. But I would look at this as a leading indicator. So I am anticipating this to happen, for it to break up above this number here. I think that would then be the signal that we should then be anticipating some very strong upside targets from QQQ and IWM. Let me get back into the S&P. We'll now take a look at the daily chart. And what we're going to see here on the daily is the possibility of this minuet wave topping. You're also going to notice that we do have the possibility here of a bearish X wave. Now that is just there because it would align with a potential last selling C leg in both IWM and QQQ. But I give that at this point very low probability. I really think the bulls are solidly in control, and I'm not so worried about that potential selling leg taking place. What might happen is that we do see this minuet degree top here, and it would be at various degrees across the other indices, ETFs, and individual names, and then we get this, whatever degree it is, a wave two pullback. So I'm kind of ready for that to happen right away or at some point early in the week. And if we see SPX get back and back test this bull channel with this 21 EMA, let's say in maybe the 2930 to 2940 range, I think you got to be a buyer. I think you've got to get ready, keep some powder dry early this week. I'm into this holiday weekend in a majority of cash. I've got a few long positions that I decided to let run over the weekend, because when you see some other individual names, I think we could get a pop and then we could get that drop of various degree. Would just quickly point out that it is quite extended above the 8 EMA, but very, very healthy MA action. And maybe we just see that pull back, just to pull back towards those MAs before the next big move that I see ultimately culminating somewhere up here, probably 4,200 for the next substantial move before I think the next possibly substantial pullback. So let's now get into some short-term looks here. I want to get over to futures. So in our ES minis here, looking at the hourly chart, there's the possibility of that minuet one, which could lead to the ABC down. Now I've got a little bit deeper pullback here. I would probably put that more on the upper part of that rail in that like 39.30 area. We see over here that possibility to pull back in here. That coincides nicely with the 200 period 15-minute MA. I'm going to leave, though, the possibility in that something much more shallow happens for a pullback, that if we don't see the bigger one, if we get a pop and a little bit of pullback, though, that finds support, that we could actually see one last leg up before that wave 2 sells. So I am anticipating at some point this coming week that degree 2 wave to sell across the markets. I don't know if it's going to happen right away Monday, or if we get that pop, a small pullback, then that move, and it doesn't actually pan out till, let's say, maybe Wednesday or Thursday. But either way, the recommendation is to buy dips. So keep that powder dry. I think we are seeing the beginning stages of a market that could just now be ready to start trending. So let's get into QQQ. Want you to see its monthly chart. We had this, and I pointed this out at the end of Feb, which would have been our warning into March. The shooting star candle that was confirmed by a lower low. But look at that bounce right off our 8-month EMA. It was only like 15 cents short of actually being a green hammer candle. And then, of course, we opened the month higher on Thursday. So a bearish count here, again, like on SPX, very low probability. We're looking to get the Qs back up to all-time highs. And I've got an initial target here at 353. Of course, that could move up. That could move up to, say, the 2.27 fib, which I think would be around 375 to 380. So we could see that extend up. Not yet willing to entertain anything more bullish than that. I think that's plenty bullish before I think get a pullback of some significance towards, let's say, late summer, early fall through maybe the end of 2021. Do want to also point out that we do have the potential of developing negative divergence on the RSI, but it's not that close to resolving bullishly. It's about 3 percentage points away from resolving bullishly. If there's a strong move here in the month of April into May, I think we could probably see that divergence actually get rid of itself, and that could take us upwards to maybe more of that 375, 380 target. Looking into the daily, want to point out that price on the Qs had run right up against this long-term rail. It was support, then it's become now resistance. It was significant that we had a touch and then a bounce, but then a breakdown. We had a retest, but we had a rejection, kind of a fakey breaky move here, another rejection, and we're at it again. So this is a very, very active trend line. It is now acting as resistance. We need to see what happens. A gap up that powers through it would just be a continuation of this minuet wave 3. A rejection to pull back I don't think on Q's is going to sell off quite as far. So I would just have that pulling back right here comfortably into these MAs. If that cluster holds on a pullback, I definitely want to use some of that dry powder. So into it short term now, we'll look at NQ, look at the NASDAQ futures first. There's that version of the rail right there. It's just right at it. It's possible, like I said, that we get that minuet 3 to top and then we pull back in the 4. It's also possible that this gaps up and it could extend. So it hasn't yet hit the 1.618 fib extension. It could run up even higher if there's a substantial gap up in futures overnight Sunday into the Monday pre-market. And of course, I could put on the next fibs. For now, going to leave that there to see if that does hold it, followed by some consolidating move. This would probably turn into a nice bull flag to then give you another dip to buy to get one more strong run up, let's say towards maybe 13.6, 13.7 here in NASDAQ. On the Qs, going to see that potential again of that wave 3 top. Want to point out that divergence on the 15-minute RSI. Now this can extend for quite some time. At some point, it will result in a pullback. I'm curious, we had on Thursday the gap up over this rail. I'm curious, do we get the back test now? So a back test of this that holds, let's say the mid 322s would be a place that I would certainly want to look to try to buy. I do like to play fifth wave moves when I feel confident that I've got not only fib, but also either channel or rail support, maybe pivot support. That holds here. That's a fifth wave move that I want to try to play. I had skipped over this, so I want to go back to it. I need to point out to you this bear gap down. So this 327 to 330 area was the site of the big breakdown that we saw in the middle of February. And that, I think, is going to act as some significant resistance. It could test and fall back. It could fill and fall back. I doubt it just gets blasted through without a pullback. So that's the site of where I have this minute degree one. If this is a short-term buy area, I'm going to sell into strength into that gap resistance. This is really the one that you want to be looking to try to load up, because that 3 of 3 move, absolutely the one that you want to be on board. Want to get to IWM, so we look more at the broad ETFs. This is taking you to my all-time chart here. Haven't shown this very often, but I have it within a cycle 5 of super cycle 3. I have it very bullishly starting in its primary one. I've got that new target now at about 270. We saw in the month of March, we saw kind of an indecisive doji candle. We need to see how that resolves. So we are still very, very comfortably above our trending 8 and 21 monthly EMAs. And I've got it in account that's getting it ready for a 3 of 3 of 3. So just like Qs, this is one that you want to be ready for. I think we already got the first minute 1 and 2 off that selling low from March 5th. We're now into the sub-degrees here. And where we're at, I'm very confident that we're in this degree of 3. But now what happens over the next couple days, just like Qs, I'm not quite as sure. So again, leaving in the possibility that we've topped in 1 or could extend in 1, then with the pullback, and this bear channel here that had held off the potential rally right here and right here, it just gets powered through. I would love a chance to buy a retest. So that is my plan. I'm hoping. I'm going to be patient. I'm not going to chase any gap up Monday rally. So I think at that point, we're going to be looking at that moving into divergence. It's the possibility of setting that sub-degree 1 top. I'm not going to chase. I'm going to be looking to sell that into strength with the remaining longs that I have, anticipating an upcoming dip. So now the danger of that is if we are back into a strong bull trending market, that you get a lockout rally and you don't get a chance to buy the depth of the dip that you want. So we're just going to have to wait and see. And if that's the case at some point, if you're not fully in and you want to be, you're just going to have to find whatever shallow short-term dip you can. But for now, I'm feeling pretty good that we're probably going to see at some point early to middle of the week a nice buyable pullback. All right, ready to now get into the individual names, and got quite a few. Let's start with Apple. So Apple on the monthly, there was just a piercing touch in the month of March of its 8-month EMA. It did not break. It is held again, and I think it's still okay for it to move up to a new all-time high. And I have that in a primary 3-wave. There's lots of other counts out there that have anything from Apple topping a cycle wave to Apple not, of course, making a new high. So we just got to be prepared, because Apple has lagged a bit. It's just though gotten back above its 8 and 21 EMAs. Was able to accomplish that Wednesday and Thursday of that last week of March. Now, where we're at exactly in that progression, I think just the start of a minor 3-wave. It has its own selling gap down, and that's in the 132 to 133 range. That's where I probably think we'll maybe see some resistance on a sub-degree basis. You're going to see that targeted here, right up there, 130, 31, 31, 32, 133. So I'm ready also for that pullback in Apple. It's possible that this 3 goes here, this 4 goes here, and we're going to get a pop up before we get that pullback. I would love to see it pull back towards that 200 period MA. That's kind of the one for me. That's my trend following one. And when we get that trend going up, pullbacks to that MA that hold are places that I want to look to add. Okay, I want to move into the other big tech names before I come back to the ones on this chart. Let's take a look at Amazon's monthly. So like Apple, it pierced through, but closed back above in the month of March. Its 8-month EMA, much more scary pierce here on Amazon. And it's kind of perched right beneath this crossing resistance of this down channel and this up channel that I like to extend here. We want to see it in the month of April. Bust on through that. That's 32.30. That's the significant pivot resistance at kind of the first level here in Amazon. There's actually one a little bit lower, about 31.90, then 32.30. So those are the areas that Amazon has to conquer. And in its count, I've got it already in a minor 1, minor 2. We're looking at the next set of 1s and 2s. So like everything else I've shown so far, has that 1 topped. Okay, so it now pushed through, closed above its rising 200-day SMA. This is that 31.90 pivot, and you'll see that here on the short term. I think that would be a likely top for either this 1, if I count that a little bit differently, where this could be a 3, this 3, and this 4 here, or we get that smaller pullback with the move up. Okay, so again, we're just going to be on our toes, but we're anticipating resistance in the 31.90 to 32.20, 32.30 range on Amazon. Next one I want to show you on the monthly is Facebook. And what I want to point out, obviously want to point out the breakout at the end of March and what we think will be continuation here in April. I mentioned this before. This monthly divergence is really, really attention grabbing. I think once we see the final push and the final market top at some point, maybe this summer, I think Facebook takes a tumble. So it has not yet, by my counting, put in a cycle top. It has not yet fully put in 5 primary waves by the way that I'm counting it. So I think there will be some very significant tops that are forming, and it could happen anytime, I think, between, let's say, June and September. So that's the area that I'm looking for topping at that point. I hope that we're all very rich, but I hope that we're not too complacent. And if we've remembered what we've lived through in the September sell-off and then the February-March sell-off, we've got to be ready. So I do think we get the good run, but we want to pay attention to what's going to happen at these final targets. So an interesting daily candle here on Facebook. Daily candles just by themselves in isolation, I don't tend to give maybe a whole lot of attention, but when it's at the top of a move up, that almost the look of a shooting star, if the body was a little bit thicker, has me thinking that maybe there will be a pullback. But like all of the other short-term ones, I just can't yet anticipate when that's going to take place. It did put in what I think was some nice flagging action and a breakout, so it's just possible that it just runs up to a new all-time high. And that would be my minor 3 target before then a minor 4 pullback. Let's take a look at Google on the monthly. And I had pointed this out quite a while back, that this upper resistance at rejected price significantly 3 times over the last 7 years. We got the breakthrough, we got the testing move in February, the breakthrough and hold in March, and now continuation, I think, in April. So I have my initial target for Google comfortably in the 2300s. We look into the daily, and I think we got the break on Thursday of this rectangular consolidation. The typical way that you want to measure this move is you just take the width of the rectangle, which is from about 2000 up to about 2120, 120, add it to the top, and that's going to get you that mid 2300 target, and that's where I think we end up. I think to get there, though, we might see a set of degree 4 pullbacks. So exactly where we are in that progression, because I keep clicking on Apple, I want to click through the other big techs, is we could be ready for one of them. We could see some extension. Okay, so again, the theme that you're seeing over and over is possibility of Monday gap up, I don't chase. I use that as an opportunity to sell into strength. I want to wait for that next pullback before I look to buy. Let's take a look at Microsoft. So Microsoft on the monthly. Also, you'll notice, like Facebook, there is RSI, the potential of RSI and Stochastic divergence. I'm anticipating the movement to a primary top here in Microsoft. But what an amazing bull channel over the last 6 years, since what I have is a cycle 2 low look at just the steadiness, obviously volatility along the way at various here degree 4s. But Microsoft, I think, still ready to give us some good action here on the daily. I think it's pretty nested. So I've got this in 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, ready for a popping move in 3. We got a great move on Thursday, strongly above, popped all the way out of those MAs. Does it pull back slightly, or does it just keep running? Of course, that's the big question that we just got to wait and see. I've got the potential that it just keeps running. So that first pullback area would take it to very close to a new all-time high at about 246. So let's look at the last of big tech here with Tesla. Okay, so Tesla, we saw from its top at 900 a pretty healthy sell-off. So down 15% and then a little bit more than 1%, although a nice hammer-looking bounce to close out the month of March. And I think we're still good for one more run up. Now, I'm not incredibly bullish on both the target and the duration of this run. Now, just me saying that it's going to get to a new all-time high already puts it into quite a significant percentage price increase. Let's take a look at the daily, where I do still have it in a bull count. And I think we've got a 1, 2, a possibility of another 1. Are we going to get that 2? That's what we're then looking for next. take you into the short term here. And what we're going to see is this really nice sideways channel that I thought had broken out, and I thought this degree 4 was going to hold, but then it broke down just a little bit more. So I've got the possibility, if the markets fall in that wave 2, that it could go, let's say, all the way down to maybe 640, to the mid channel, maybe 630. Otherwise, if this degree 4 is in, we could see a big popping move in Tesla. And then I've got the resistance there at about, first resistance at about 720, which is the price value of its first, what I'm counting as a wave one up off its March low. Okay, some other names I want you to take a look at. I really, really like Netflix. And we saw Netflix with an awesome move on Thursday out of this bear channel, back above its 50-day, and any pullback that back tests that, I'm going to be in. I have it again in a nested set of 1s and 2s, a lot like Microsoft. And will this just keep going? It could. I'm not going to chase it. Like I've already said, if we get that back testing move, anything back to about 530, I would just love to see for an opportunity to get back long on Netflix. Also really like NVDA. So I think it is in, again, a nested 1-2 count, minor, 1, minor 2. Where we're at in getting this minute 1 to top, I'm not yet sure. Could we see a 4 pullback? Oops, I've got these degrees switched. That degree needs to switch. That's obviously the 4. That needs to switch before we top in that menu at 5. Is the 1 already in? Would we already get the 2? Again, we just have to wait and see. And when I evaluated things at the end of the day Thursday, because of the possibility of where we were extended, I wasn't going to take a lot of positions into the weekend. I really wanted to see how Monday resolves. So giving you my thoughts there on, I'm not going to chase opening gap up. I'm going to wait for the pullback. The depth of the pullback is going to determine whether it's a wave 4 or a wave 2. Okay, last set of individual names is on this chart. Let's take a look at Boeing. Boeing did have a bearish engulfing body candle on Thursday. So I've got the possibility that Boeing did put in that 1, and maybe this is a stock that's telling us that this sector of the market needs to pull back a little bit more. Anything back to the mid channel, let's say back to the low to mid 240s, I would look to buy. And that's going to give us a chance to get Boeing back up eventually, I think, to the 290 range. And then I've got a topping target in Boeing around 300. That's maybe conservative, and that could definitely move up. We're just going to see what happens over the next few weeks. So Fastly we got on Thursday. We got its bear channel breakout. We had a little bit of a test piercing through the 21-day EMA. Like all the others, where's it at in its progression? So is this just a flagging 4? We get the pop, we get the pullback, or is this 3 here, this 4 here? Again, you're going to see it's consistent. I appreciate that consistency, but again, I don't know yet what we're going to see. Let's see what happens. In any event, I want to look to buy on that pullback test of its MAs. Okay, ROKU. This is why, I'm always leaving MAs on the chart, whether it is a bull trend sideways or a bear market, because if you call this a bear market rally, you want to know where to exit. So you would have exited here when you saw that it couldn't conquer this 21 EMA. And I have seen that happen over and over and over. And so that's why you see on my charts my stacked set of MAs, because price respects those MAs when it's trying to trend either up, down, or if it's looking for bear market rallies that get rejected. If it's going to trend again in a bullish way, it's got to get solidly back above there. So in the short term count, have we already put in the 4? If it drops any more and holds this 200 period MA, like I've mentioned already in a couple different names, QQQ would be one that I want to try to play that 5th wave. Okay, and I think eventually we would see some resistance around 370. So another one that follows this criteria is Palantir. It also got rejected by its 21 EMA. Whether that minute one is in, we just have to wait and see. This count looks very, very similar to ROKU, very, very similar to FSLY. Is the 4 in? Do we get the pop? Or is the 1 in and we're looking to build the 2? So just be ready, keep that powder dry, and I want to be ready to buy dips. We'll close here with SE. The strength on this one has just astounded me. I was thinking that the 21 EMA would hold it. Just like FSLY, ROKU, Palantir, it did not. It just gapped right up to the next one, showing you its strength, trying to pierce through, just closing right beneath its 50-day. I show you the short-term chart here, the hourly, and I had anticipated that this bear gap also coinciding with that 21 EMA would hold it, and it just said no way and just gapped right up above it. Just like the last 5 charts we've seen. Is 3 in? Do we get a 4 pullback? Is 1 going here and we get the 2? We're just going to wait and see. So I like charting multiple layers of support to try to measure against the degree of the Elliott wave pullback. If this MA holds and the top of this gap holds, I think it's a wave 4, and I would buy to play the wave 5. If this starts to break down, then we're probably looking for the wave 2, and that's your clue that you might want to be more patient. Instead of something intraday on Monday, you might want to be waiting more until Tuesday or maybe Wednesday. Okay, so hope you like that overview. Again, if I just kind of take you back to finish out on the monthly, we are, I believe, in a very, very good place. I think we are back to a place where dips can be bought. Be patient. Don't chase an opening gap. I'm not going to do it. Going to wait for some pullbacks with that dry powder. As always, thanks for the likes and follows. Wish you a wonderful holiday weekend. Hope it's been great already so far. And as always, excited to see what happens on Monday.